This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good morning, Rabbi. We're learning Sefer Ezra, and we're learning Perek Beis, and we're up to Pasuk Zayin. And it's very interesting. We mentioned last week that Sefer Ezra is now going to give you a detailed record of exactly which people went up and heeded to the call of Koresh. And it lists about 60 psukim or so, different people who went up, different names of people who went up. And we mentioned that this appears in Ezra Perek Beis. The exact same list appears in Sefer Nehemiah Perek Zayin. And with very minor discrepancies between Perek Beis and Ezra and Perek Zayin and Sefer Nehemiah. What are the discrepancies? Well, what's interesting is that the total sum people mentioned at the end in Perek Beis of Ezra equal the sum total people in Sefer Nehemiah Perek Zayin. So bottom line, it's the same number of people. But in terms of the numbers of each individual families, there are many discrepancies. And how do we account for them? Well, the first thing is that Rashi in Sefer Nehemiah Perek Zayin mentions that we're only careful to make sure that the sum total is equal. But in terms of the exact differences of each family, the psukim are not makbid to make sure that the exact sum total of each family is equal. Why that would be, Rashi seems to be saying that there may be a number of ways to calculate the discrepancies between the various families, but the psukim are not concerned that we're going to be bothered by these questions, because there are a lot of answers we could come up with. But in the sum total, the psukim give us the same sum total. However, the Ibn Ezra and the Metzudos and Sefer Nehemiah, they both say the following: that the document that Nehemiah found of all the people who went up, that document was written when the people went up originally. So that document was calculating and recording how many people went up in the times of Koresh, when Koresh sent forth his proclamation. 36 years later, Nehemiah recorded again the people that went up. Obviously, 36 years later, the family sizes are going to be different. People pass away, people are born. People left Eretz Yisrael, went back to Bavel. So in terms of the families, obviously they're not going to match up exactly the families in Ezra and the families in Nehemiah, because Nehemiah was 36 years later. But bottom line is, Nehemiah wanted to give an accurate account of the people that came up 36 years earlier. So when it comes to the sum total, he left the sum total the same. The Malbim, and this is very important. Now,
why was it important to him to repeat it?
So, answer is, for 90% of the information, he's not repeating it. He's giving you the new numbers of 36 years later. But he only repeated one fact. The one fact he repeated was the sum total of people that went up 36 years earlier. The Malbim says another interesting discrepancy. If you look back on Pasuk Aleph of Perek Beis, it says V'yela b'nei haMedina. These are the people of the country. Ha'ila mishvi ha'goyla asher hegla Nebuchadnezzar melech Bavel li Bavel. That's Perek Beis, Pasuk Aleph. Nebuchadnezzar exiled to Bavel. Now, if you look in Nehemiah, Perek Zayin, it says the same Pasuk, but without one word. In Nehemiah, Perek Zayin, Pasuk Vav, it says Eila b'nei haMedina ha'oila mishvi ha'goyla asher hegla Nebuchadnezzar melech Bavel. It doesn't say LeBavel. So the Malbim says there were two waves of exiles. The first wave, Nebuchadnezzar exiled the leading personalities, the nobility, the wealthy. In the times of Yehoiakim, he exiled the Cherish and the Masker with many members of Anshe Knesset Hagdolah. And who came down? Who came down to Bavel? The dignitaries at first. So dignitaries. So where did Nebuchadnezzar put the dignitaries? LeBavel, in the capital. He didn't scatter them all over his empire. He situated them in residences in Bavel proper. However, later on, 18 years later, when Nebuchadnezzar came back to destroy the Beis HaMikdash and to exile Tzidkiyahu, so then Nebuchadnezzar exiled everybody, not just the dignitaries, even the average folk. The average folk, Nebuchadnezzar did not exile them to Bavel. He exiled them to everywhere under his reign. So that may account for the differences between the numbers in Ezra and Nehemiah. In Ezra, we're talking about those dignitaries who were exiled to Bavel, now they're returning. In Nehemiah, we're talking about everyone who was exiled to Bavel, talking about their return.
How are you defining Anshek Nesagdola?
Well, we know Mordechai was a member of Anshe Knesset Agdola.
But they already impaneled as
Was there a body Anshe Knesset Agdola?
That's what I asked
Last week, yeah, right.
When was it organized and
I don't know, that's an interesting question. I don't have
What's today?
Tuesday, all day.
Sorry to interrupt, but this is Kedai. You know, our shul sent out I'm on the air?
You're on the air.
I'm on the air. Good, let it be publicized. Our shul sent out a mailing advising or letting people know that they can sponsor any shiur, anywhere, anytime of our... It's a fundraiser, it's a chashav v'zach, aliyahs, nishmas, or whatever. So one lady already sponsored 6 weeks of Daf Yomi, which is a major nedava. And today's learning, this year, this retirees program, is sponsored by Margaret Baum, in memory of her husband, Eliyahu Tzvi ben Aaron Halevi. So, and I will announce it when I give the shiur later.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
Shkoyach. Nesham Shem Aliyah.
Amen.
Okay. So, back to our regularly scheduled broadcast.
And also last week you talked about by Yerushalayim v'Yehuda. You said it was the people from Yehuda. Why do I think that the 10 tribes would have been part of this one? 10 tribes were gone already a long time.
Yeah, but the Gemara Megillah says that Yirmiyahu brought them back, right?
Okay.
So, did he bring everybody back? Did he bring some people back? We also learned from the Ramban 2 things, right? Remember we quoted the Ramban. The Ramban said, first of all, that Koresh only gave permission for the people of Yehuda and Binyamin to come back, because they were the ones who were exiled from Nebuchadnezzar. He never gave permission for the Asar Hashatim. And number 2, we learned, and you remember, that it was usher to go back to Eretz Yisrael, because they took an oath that they're not going back. The only thing that superseded that was the Nevuah of Yirmiyah, that Hashem's going to remember them after 70 years. That Nevuah, the Ramban suggests, was only said to the Yehuda and Binyamin. But to all other Jews, they were still bound by the Shvuah not to return. That's what the Ramban learns. Right? Those were 2 reasons where we mentioned why only the people from Yehuda and Binyamin were going back. Either because those were the only people Koresh gave permission to, or because those were the only Jews who were allowed to go back. Okay. So let us continue with Pasuk Zayin. Okay? Perek Beis, Pasuk Zayin. This is going to be a long list of names. Bnei Elam, the children of Elam. Elef, Masayim, Chamishim, V'arba. 1,254. Okay? 1,254. Now in this edition, the Art Scroll edition, they do a very big service over here. And that is, they point out by every pasuk if there are any discrepancies between the numbers given in Ezra and the numbers given in Nehemiah. So we'll see. We'll try to, if we remember, we'll try to point out. Fine. Ches, Bnei Zatu, the descendants of Zatu, Tisha Meos v'Arba Mechamisha, 945. By the way, you can learn a very big lesson from here. You could imagine in the times of Ezra, there were people who returned and people who didn't return. And you can imagine there were people who were probably vacillating. Should I go back to Eretz Yisrael, back to Artzeinu HaKadosha, maybe build the Beis HaMikdash? And some people saying, nah, I have my business here in Bavel. I have my job in Bavel, I have my house in Bavel. You can imagine some people, they went right away. Some people said, no, they're not going. And some people, should I go, should I not go? Their wife is pressuring them, stay. The wife is telling them, go. And you can imagine somebody who decided to go. His name is recorded for all history, that he made the jump, he made the move, he decided to move to Eretz Yisrael, and his name is in the Torah forever and ever. And the guy who decided, I have my house over here, I'm going to stay here, he remains unknown forever.
Did Ezra go up in the first wave?
Did Ezra himself? No, Ezra did not go up in the first wave, right? He didn't go up until, 23 years later, right? Yeah. Oh, so you're saying maybe the people who didn't go, they were learning? I don't know, maybe.
23 years is a long time.
Is it true that the people that were intermarried were not asked to come back?
No, just the opposite. The people who intermarried, the people who had bad lineage, Ezra forced them all to go back. The people who had pure lineage, Ezra said, you stay where you are. You know why? Because if you have good yichus, you could get married where you are, no problem. But if anybody had any admixture of mamzeros or nesin or geros, Ezra said, get out of here. Because all the rabbanim left. And what's going to be, you have a guy who you don't know, is he a mamzer, is he not a mamzer, is he a sin, is not a sin. The rabbanim are not going to know what to do, because there are no rabbanim in Bavel anymore. So Ezra forced all types, all 10, asara yuchsan alu mi Bavel. Ezra clean, the Gemara says, Ezra made Bavel kesoilas nakia, like clean flour. So anybody who had any impurity had to leave Bavel.
If there are no rabbanim, how did they manage to carry on a religious life?
We don't have a strong record about.
How come Surim Bumpadita was able to establish himself?
That was Surim Pumbedisa weren't necessarily.
That was years later.
Yeah, that was after Churban Bayesheni, right?
No, that's after Bayesheni.
Right. No, but all the Chachamim left Bavel. All the Chachamim left Bavel, and that's why Ezra.
The Hefkel built.
It was a problem. It was a problem. Yeah. Okay, so Pasuk Tes, B'nai Zakai, Shiva Meos V'Shishim, 760. B'nai Vani, Sheish Meos Arba Mushnayim, 642. In Nehemiah, it's 648. B'nai Vevai, Sheish Meos Esrim Ushloisha, 623. In Nehemiah, 628. Yud Beis. B'nai Asgad, Elef, Masayim, Esrim Mishnayim, 1,222. In Nehemiah, 2,322. Pasuk Yud Gimel. B'nai Adoi Nikam, Sheishmeo Shisha Meshisha, 666. In Nehemiah, 667. Yud Dalet. B'nai Vigvai, Alpayim, Chamisha Meshisha, 2,056. 2,056. In Nehemiah, 2067. B'nai Adin, the children of Adin. Rashi Masechta Taina says Adin is Adino Ha'etzni. Who is Adino Ha'etzni? Well, first of all, we have to know what does Adino Ha'etzni mean. Adino means to bend yourself like a worm. Ha'etzni means to be strong like wood.
To be what?
Strong like wood. To be straight like wood. Says the Gemara Masechta Tainis, Daf Chavches. Rabbi Yossi says, you know who Adino Ha'etzni is? Yoav ben Sruya. Rabbi Yehuda says, he's David HaMelech. So this is the family of David HaMelech. Why is David HaMelech called Adino Ha'etzni? Because when he used to learn Torah, he used to bend himself like a worm in complete concentration. And when he would go out to battle, he would make himself strong like a piece of wood. Okay. Pasuk Tezayin. B'nai Ater, the children of Ater L'Chizkiyahu, who the patriarch was Chizkiyahu, Tishim Ushmaina, 98. B'nai Veitzai, Shlosh Meos Esem Ushloisha, 323. In Nehemiah, 324. Pasuk Yerches, B'nai Yoira, Mea Ushneim Asar, 112. So he points out here, the family of Yoira is not even mentioned in Nehemiah. Over there, there's a family, B'nai Charif. where their number is also 112, and the Ibn Ezra says it could be the same mishpacha. Yotes, B'nai Chush Chashum, Masayim Esrim Shloisha, 223. In Nehemiah it's 328. B'nai Gibar, Tisha Mechamisha, 95. In Nehemiah, they're not called B'nai Gibar, they're called B'nai Givain. Fine. B'nai Beis Lachem, the children of the city of Beis Lachem, Mea Esrim Shloisha, 123. Anshe Netoifa, Chamisha Meshisha, 65 people from the people of Netoifa.
Why are they referred to differently? These Anshe instead of B'nai.
How come they changed to the cities all of a sudden?
Okay, good. So, right, some of these people, they're common denominators, they come from the same city. Some of these people, they come from the same lineage. Why over here it's called Anshe Netoifa, and before it's B'nai Beis Lachem? I don't know. Maybe B'nai Beis Lachem means their families lived in Beis Lachem for a long time, and Anshe maybe means they're not descendants of people who live there, but they happen to live there. But that's just a guess. Okay? For whatever that's worth. Anshe Anasos, the people of Anasos. Now, the Anasos should be familiar to you. Who's from Anasos?
Yirmiyahu.
Very good. Yirmiyahu, right. Divrei. Yirmiyahu, right. Ben Chilkiyahu, Ben HaKohanim Asher Ba'Anasos. Now, the Bnei Anasos had a curse on them. Because, in the times of old, the worst job you could have is to be a Navi. It was even worse than being a rabbi. Why? Because as much as people don't like rabbis, they hated Nevi'im. They hated Nevi'im. They couldn't stand them. The Navi would come over to you, and he would say to you, you came 30 seconds late to Shachris this morning, you no good Nick. What's the matter with you? And he would come over to somebody, he would look at your forehead, he would say, 30 days ago you spoke Lashon Hara. Get out of here. He would lambast you. The Navi would lambast you. They didn't like Nevi'im. Zechariah, they killed him. Yirmiyah, they threw stones at him. They threw him into a pit until a black man had to save Yirmiyahu. No Jew would save him. That's why we like black people, because they saved Yirmiyahu. No, Jews wouldn't save him. Chas v'shalom. We're not interested in Yirmiyahu. He's too tough on us, right? Like this, the rabbi is too tough. The prophets, not only that, the people of Anasos conspired to kill Yirmiyahu HaNavi. Imagine such a thing. And a curse was put on them, that the young men would die. So the question is, what are they doing here, returning to Eretz Yisrael? What happened to the curse? So the Medrash says they did tshuva. They did tshuva. Okay. Pasuk Chav Daled. B'nai Azmaves Arba Mishnayim. 42 people of Azmaves. Number 25. By the way, in Nehemiah it doesn't say B'nai, it says Anshe. Okay. Number 25, Pasuk Chafei. B'nai Kiryas Arim, the people of Kiryas Arim, Kefira, Be'erois, Shavameos, Ve'arba Mishloisha. 743. B'nai Harama, V'gava, Sheishmeos Esrim Ve'echad. 621. Anshe Michmas, Mea Esrim Mishnayim. 122.
How come in these psukim they list two at one time?
You mean two cities at a time?
Two names of people, no?
Oh, you mean some psukim have grouped together two groups?
Right.
I don't know. Maybe they were together. They had some kind of closeness. I don't know. Chavches Anshe Beisel v'ha'ai, the people of Beisel and I. Masayim Esrim Mishloisha 223. B'nai Nevai. Ibn Ezra says Nevai was not a city, it was a person. Chamishim Mishnayim, 52. B'nai Magbish, Mea Chamishim Meshisha, 156. B'nai Elam Acher, the son of a different Elam. Why does it have to say a different Elam? Because in Pasuk Zayin we had B'nai Elam. And you know how many B'nai Elam came back in Pasuk Zayin? 1,254. And you know how many people of this B'nai Elam are coming back?
54. Same thing.
Elef Masayim, the same thing, 1,254. So you would think it must be the same family. What are the chances you have two families called Elam, and both families you have 1,254 people returning. So the Navi says you should know it's a different family. Just coincidental that they're the same number. Lamed Beis, B'nei Chorim, Shlosh Meos Ve'esrim. 320. 320.
They match on both books.
What?
They match on both, right?
Yeah, that matches. Lamed Gimel, B'nei Loid, Chadid V'Ainoi. The children of Loid, Chadid, and Ainoi. Sheva Meos Esrim Chamisha. 725. In Nehemiah, 721. B'nei Yerechai, the residents of Yerechai, Shlosh Meos Arba Chamisha. 345. B'nei Sinah. He quotes over here, Tosfos in Eruvin Daf Mem Aleph says B'nei Sinah were the descendants of Binyamin. Not now we're up to Binyamin, not B'nei Yehuda. Shloishes Alafim Sheish Meos Shloshim. 3,630. In Nehemiah, it's 3,930. Okay, so Rabbi say those were the Israelites, the people from Yehuda and Binyamin who returned. Now we're up to.
In most of the places where you have a discrepancy,
Yeah.
the number in Nehemiah is a lot higher.
Correct.
How could the total be the same if all the discrepancies are higher on the Nehemiah side?
But what's the reason why most of them are higher? Because 36 years later, the birth rate exceeded the death rate, right?
Yeah.
But there are certain.
But the arithmetic doesn't work.
What? Why?
Because all the numbers, there's a discrepancy, except for one I noticed.
It's higher.
Nehemiah has higher numbers. So if all the discrepancies are higher on Nehemiah's total,
How could some of them be same?
Some of them
Unless
you omit it.
Apparently, some of them,
You omit it, maybe.
How could the total be the same?
some.
No, if he has more.
Oh,
the arithmetic doesn't work.
oh, okay. Because the total sum, according to the Mitzudas and the Ibn Ezra, the total sum is a total sum of 36 years earlier.
No.
In other words, the discrepancies are answered by 36 years later. There were differences. But when it comes to the total sum, Nehemiah was not giving the total sum of.
He's not adding up the...
He's not adding up his numbers. He's giving the original total sum. Okay. Now we're talking about the Kohanim who returned. Now, Rabbi said, how many families of Kohanim were there? We know there were 24 families of Kohanim, right? The Gemara in Tainus on Chav Zayin says there are 24 mishmaros of Kahuna. Those 24 mishmaros were divided by David HaMelech, as chronicled in Chronicles. When Koresh called for the return, how many families returned of the 24? 4. Only 4 returned. We'll see which 4. Then in the times of Ezra, they further divided those 4 into, each 4 is divided into 6, to be able to go back to the original number of 24. Now, certain families, let's say the original 24, 1, 2, 3, 4, let's say the 4th one returned, the 17th one, the 19th, and the 23rd. So let's say the 7th one returned. What would happen if later on the first one returned? So could the first one say, well, I used to be the first week. You used to be the 7th week. So now you've been serving the first week because you were the first one to return, but now I'm here. So the Gemara in Tainus says, no, because the earlier families did not return. If they would have returned, they would have lost their rights to serve in the earlier weeks. They would have to go later. Okay, so now we're going to learn about the families of the Kohanim.
So how, to begin with, what's the difference? Why should we know these things, these numbers?
Why should we know them? First you see...
What do we learn from it?
What do we learn from it? First we see that anybody who does something good, it's recorded. So these people in those days, they probably thought, they do go, they don't go, what's the big deal? Is it going to be important? So here the Torah records for posterity. Their names are recorded in the Torah. So everybody has to know that what they think may be a small decision, Hakol b'sefer nechtavim, everything is recorded, you know. But what I'm sure, al pi Kabbalah, every number means very mystical things and teaches me very important things. But unfortunately, I don't know what they are. So I'm sure, unfortunately, yeah. But B'avaneseinu harabim, you know, we only have very limited knowledge. Okay, look at number Lamed Vav. HaKohanim, the Kohanim b'nei Yedaya, from the descendants of Yedaya. From the descendants of Yedaya.
Yeshua.
Leves Yeshua. Yadai was a descendant of Yeshua. Tishameos Shivim Ushlesha. 973. So that's family number 1 of Kohanim. Number 2, Bnei Imer, Elef Chamishim Mishnayim, 1052. Bnei Pashchar, Elef Masayim Arbam V'Shiva, 1247. Bnei Charim, Elef V'Shiva Asar, 1017. He brings down here, Rashi Masechta Tainis points out that this family of Pashchor is not mentioned among the families of Kohanim that served in the first Beis HaMikdash. The Bach in Masechta Tainis explains that it must be that the family of Pashchor is given a different name in Divrei HaYamim. Okay. And we read Bnei Charim, Elef V'Shiva Asar. Now we're talking about the Levium. Any Levium here? From Yankel. Any Levium?
Levium, I got.
Yeah. Okay, now we're talking about Levium. You're going to talk about your ancestors. Now there are 3 types of Levium. You have the ones that are the Shoimrim, like we learned in Masechta Midos, Masechta Tamid. You have the Shayarim, the gatekeepers, and you have the Meshoirim, the singers. So says the pasuk, Halavim, B'nei Yeshua, V'Kadmiel, Livnei Hoidvaya, the descendants, the children of Yeshua and Kadmiel of the family of Hoidvaya, Hoidavia, Shivim V'Arba, 74. Hameshoirim, the singers. What?
There's Yeshua and the Kohanim also.
Okay.
Cousins?
It was a popular name, back then. It's a popular name. So 74. Hameshoirim of the singers. Bnei Yosef, Mea Eser Mishmana, 128. Bnei Shayarim, the gatekeepers. Bnei Shalom, Bnei Ater, Bnei Talmud, Bnei Akov, Bnei Chatita, Bnei Shoyvoy, HaKoil, in total, Mea Shloshim V'Sisha, 139.
And then Evan Ezra says they were the sons of Asaf.
Asaf, okay. Who's Asaf? Asaf is one of the composers of Tehillim, right? Mizmar Li Asaf.
Oh, yeah.
Rabbi said, I was bothered. What happened to the Shoimrim? Why did no Levium return who were Shoimrim? You have the Shayarim, you have the Meshoirim, but why don't you have any Shoimrim? I don't know the answer to that. Maybe someone out there will help us with that.
Someone out
Maybe someone in here. Okay. Now we're up to the Nesinim. Who are the Nesinim? The Nesinim were residents of Givon. They were Canaanim, one of the 7 nations that we had to destroy from the Chivi. And when they saw what Yoshua did to Yericho and to Ai, they quaked, they trembled, they sittered, they feared, and they said, we got to come up with a plan. So they masqueraded as people who had traveled from a very far distance, and they told Yeshua ben Nun, Yeshua, we've come in peace, we are the descendants, we come from a very far away land, and they basically tricked Yeshua ben Nun into thinking that what? That they are not Canaanim. So, Yeshua ben Nun took a shvuah, and the Zakanim upheld it, that Klal Yisrael would not destroy the Gevonim. The Gevonim or the Nesinim. The problem was, this was a shvuah b'tas, right? Yeah, they swore, but that's because they tricked them. So really, the shvuah should be invalid. But because of Chilul Hashem, they maintained the shvuah. Now, they were called Nesinim. Why Nesinim? Nesinim means designated. They were designated to be water carriers and wood choppers. Now, some say no, Yoshua did not designate them, David HaMelech designated them. Now, there's a very important machlokes rishonim. Ready for this? There's a machlokes rishonim. Are you allowed to marry the people from Canaan once they convert? Let's say
Nothing was mentioned in the Torah.
a young man is going out with somebody, and she breaks it to him. You know, the Shadchan says she comes from a Haimishim Mishpacha. She said, by the way, I'm a Chivi. A what? What kind of Chasidus is that? No. I'm a Kanani. But don't worry, I converted. Are you allowed to marry someone from Canaan that converted? Says Rashi, the Isser of Loisis Chatein Bam is only before they convert. Of course. There's a Lav Doiraisa to marry someone from Canaan once they convert, they're no different than anybody else. Says Rashi in the Sechta Yevamos, Daf Ayin Chesam and Beis, Ayin Tesam and Aleph, in Ksubis and Daf Chav Tesam and Aleph, says Rashi, there's no Isser Doiraisa to marry a Kanani who converts. But Yehoshua ben Nun placed an Isser D'Rabbanan to marry someone from the Nesinim.
Who converted?
Yehoshua.
He did in error? Or up front, he knew?
They fooled them.
Before they went into the land, the continental land, right? They basically sent out peace treaties, right? So they had an opportunity at that point in time to make peace, right?
Yeah. So maybe in error, but it was done. It wasn't. They converted. So now the question is, could you marry them? So Rashi says, "Midairaisa you're allowed to," but there was an Isser D'Rabbanan to marry them, so long as the Beis Hamikdash stood. But comes David HaMelech, and he sees the Nesinim, they're bad people, so he reinstituted the Isser D'Rabbanan of marrying the Nesinim.
Didn't they ask for some type of revenge from Shaul or something like that?
Sounds familiar.
They had to unbury some people,
Sounds
them up and all that.
Sounds familiar.
They had to do it because now this is some type of David
HaMelech somehow saw that the Nesinim were like barbarians. He didn't like them. So he reinstated this Rabbanan. Rabbeinu Tam disagrees with Rashi. Rabbeinu Tam says the Isser to marry a Kanani is even after they convert. And the only D'Rabbanans that Yoshua and David made is that they designated them to carry water and to carry wood. But Yoshua ben Nun, but there's no Isser D'Oraisa, excuse me, according to Rabbeinu Tam, it's not an Isser D'Rabbanan to marry someone from the Nesinim, it's an Isser D'Oraisa. Okay? So now...
Are there any living today?
And all Kohanim, including the Nesinim. They were Kohanim. They were the Chivi, one of the 7 Ummahs of Canaan. Okay?
Do they exist today?
The Kohanim, none of these people exist today. You know why? Because Bas Sancherev uBilba Kol HaUmmahs. They're no more Mayavim, they're no more Ammonim, they're no more Edomim.
But if Yirmiyahu brought back the Bnei Yisrael that were exiled,
So he brought back the Bnei Yisrael.
and who knows what happened to the other people?
But the other Ummahs, the Gemara says in Masechta Brachos that Ba Yehuda Ger Ammoni to the Beis HaMedrash, and Rabbi Yeshua says Mutter Lavai B'Kahal, because Kfar Ba Sancheru Bilba Kol HaUmmahs, and that's how the Rambam paskins that if you want to marry someone from Moav today, we can make a shidduch initiative, right? Now they want people to marry older girls. They have all these plans. To marry Gerim from Ammon, from Moav, from Edom, from Mitzrayim.
We don't know who they are.
Exactly, they're Batal B'Shishim.
How come the Nesiim came back?
Avad it's better to marry a Jew. But if you got to get married, no problem.
I believe the Nesinim were not allowed to marry Kohanim. This is in the 4th parak of Kiddushin.
No ger can marry Kain.
Yeah, so are they considered Gerim?
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah.
So then Kohanim cannot marry
Right.
women who are Nesinim.
But neither could any other Jew, because there's either an Isser D'Oraisa or an Isser D'Rabbanan.
But where are they today?
They're mixed up. They may be your next door neighbor.
That's right.
Right? The question is, the Shagas Aryeh asks, if Bas Sancheru Bilba Kol HaUmmahs, then why the Rambam Shita is not like Rashi? Rashi says, right, there's a pasuk that says like this: Es brisi heifar. What does the S come to include? L'rabbis b'nei keturah. That b'nei keturah have to do milah. Yeah? L'rabbis b'nei keturah. B'nei keturah have to do milah. Rashi says b'nei keturah means only those 6 sons of keturah had to do milah. Zimran, Yakshan, Medan, all those guys. Says
Why only them, not their descendants?
not their descendants. That's how Rashi learns. The Rambam learns their descendants also. The Rambam says today, the Rambam says like that: if you're a b'nei keturahnik, you got to do milah today. Tell them oilim, right? If they want extra business, They should not. They should go to the Bnei Keturah. Says the Rambam. And nowadays, Bnei Keturah and Bnei Yishmael are all mixed up, so all the Arabs have to do Milah.
Which they do. Well,
But they have to do it. Whether they do it or not, they have to do it, because they might be Bnei Keturah.
Have to do it on the 8th day and all that kind of stuff.
No, 13.
No, they do it at 13.
13.
They have to do it on the 8th day, yeah.
Why
That's
8th day?
Because the Pasuk says, Brisi Hefar means they gotta do it.
Yishmael did it on...
Yishmael, but we're not... The descendants of Yishmael don't have to do Milah. It's the Bnei Keturah that have to do Milah. So Rabbi say,
The descendants of Bnei Yishmael.
don't have to do Milah.
So the Arabs are doing it, why?
They want to do it the same way the same way. Why do they do it? The same way they do whatever they do. I don't know. Rabbi say, listen to the phrase. So ask the Shagas Aryeh, if Bas Sancherev u'Bilba Kol Ha'umais, then why do all the Bnei Keturah and all the Bnei Yishmael have to do Milah? The same way we said you can marry an Ammoni, a Mayavi, and a Doimi, and a Mitzri, because we say you're probably Italian, Japanese, or Indian. So if an Arab comes, an Arab's not an Arab either. He's probably either Japanese, Russian, Bukharian, Indian, who knows what he is. Bas Sancherev u'Bilba Kol Ha'umais. You can't have it both ways. Ask the Shagas Aryeh. If Sancherev mixed everyone up, and that's why you can marry someone from Ammon and Mayav, so then why did the Bnei Keturah and the Bnei Yishmael have to do Milah? Everyone's mixed up. So that's the famous answer. The Noda B'Yehuda says like this. Very nice, everyone's mixed up. So what? But you always have to be choishish for the miyut. So you say, how are you allowed to marry someone from Ammon and Moav? The answer is because a Jew has a right to rely on the roiv. Acharei rabim lahatos. A Jew can rely on the majority. But a God cannot rely on the majority. Because the pasuk of Acharei rabim lahatos was only said to Jews. But Goyim, they could have a court of one. So that means there's no concept of roiv for Goyim. Since there's no concept of roiv, so that all the Bnei Keturah have to do Milah. Why? What do you mean Basan Cherev? Yeah, but you have to be choshish for the miyut.
They don't know who they are.
Exactly, that's why you have to do Milah.
They all have to do it.
So every guy has to do.
Oh, so ask them in Cheschinuch. Very nice, Noda B'Yehuda. You want to say Goyim can't rely on the roiv. So if that's the case, every guy in the world should have to do Milah. Why? Because maybe he's a Bnei Keturah. 99% of Goyim are not Bnei Keturah. Doesn't matter. You have to be choshish for the miyut. So that would be a real good thing to tell a Mayal. Tell the Mayal that all Goyim have to do Milah.
Tell the Pope to spread the word to his followers.
In all those countries,
now's your chance. What?
All these countries are banning circumcision in Europe, right?
But in the United States, it's common to be circumcised.
Okay. So, let's just, where are we up to?
Does circumcision count, or does it have to be the same Milah?
In Bet Shemesh, there's a community of Russians who converted to Judaism in some village about 100 years ago. And they maintained the Yiddishkeit all through this period. And now they came to Eretz Yisrael and they live in Bet Shemesh. And everybody knows who they are.
They had to convert. They convert?
Well, not those people all passed away.
Wow.
People now are grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and so on.
Wow.
Yes, they are Jews.
Rabbi say, so this is where we're up to. We're going to continue in Mitzvah Hashem with Pasuk Mem Gimel about the Nesinim. Have a wonderful day.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.